on, Bucs fans? Welcome inside the 813, where Rock and I have been coming at you every Thursday, talking about the studs and duds, the X Factors, and as always, we're talking about Todd. I am your host, James Yarcho, editor-in-chief here at the 813, joined by our boots on the ground, Rock Riley. Of course, check out all the content that we have here for you at the 813, and make sure that you're following on Twitter at the 813 TV, at JArco_Bucks, and at Real Rock Riley. Rock, how are we doing today, buddy? I know you're going through it today.
Yeah, it's one of those days like the internet. I'm over at $1, and at the end, all of a sudden, what happened here? And that circle goes around. Luckily, I pulled out my second laptop. Problems, and then everybody is waiting with the hurricane at the end, right to that last end, and then you get here, and our internet just got knocked off here. So that's why it's not the fine quality. But you know what? It's like a game, James. Like nothing ever seems to go exactly right. So you know what? I'm down. I just came out of halftime. I've made my adjustments, and I'm ready to go, James.
Yeah, we just got to roll with the punches each and every week. All right, Rock. Tough loss to the Denver Broncos. Not a lot of people saw that one coming, but we still have to talk about the studs and duds. A lot more duds than studs this week, but there were some bright spots for the Buccaneers against Denver. How about you go ahead and kick things off? Who was your stud this week?
You know what? I was almost going to go with Chris Godwin. You've gone with Godwin 2 weeks in a row, so I didn't want to really do that. You know what? I'm going to give it to Bucky Irving. I mean, he has been the lone bright spot. Really, overall, the rushing game is not good. And if you even take away his his one long run, okay, it wasn't that great, but I'm not going to take it away. And the offensive line, the blocking, it just has not been good. It's not only the offensive line overall, and so there really hasn't been a lot there. And for not having much there, thank God they got him. He is still very shifty. He's doing a good job being a rookie in the NFL, seeing if it's not here, maybe he's kicking it outside, whereas Rachaad White, he'll take it in right into the middle where there is nothing. So for a guy that really is new to the NFL and is a rookie and was coming in behind Rachaad White, I'm going to give Bucky Irving my stud.
I love that, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit about Bucky coming up in the duds. And no, Bucky is not my dud, but I love that pick, and I was kind of up in the air about picking Bucky Irving or not. I'm not picking Chris Godwin this time around. But yeah, I love what I saw out of Bucky Irving. I love what I've seen out of Bucky Irving all 3 weeks, even though he's had limited opportunities. He's kind of that spark. He comes in, and it seems like every time he's on the field, the Bucs have an opportunity for an explosive play because of his ability to make guys miss, his ability to get yards after contact. When he gets in space and he makes guys just look stupid. He was out there with the Madden joystick moves against Denver, just making guys fall over themselves. So I love that pick for Bucky. It's his debut as a stud on this show. My stud for this week comes on the defensive side of the ball, and it's the second time that we've talked about him, but it's Zion McCollum, man. Zion McCollum is on a different level. His passer rating allowed when targeted last week was 52.1. He allowed 2 receptions on 6 targets, and that means over the last 2 weeks, he has allowed 1 reception. He has allowed 3 receptions on 12 targets. That's absolutely incredible. His passer rating allowed when targeted this season through 3 weeks, 13.2. That's it. 13.2. By comparison, Jamel Dean's passer rating allowed when he's targeted, 103.4. Zion is second in the league in passes defense. He's established himself as a top-end corner. If I was Todd Bowles, I'd be strongly considering making a move to put Zion on every team's top receiver moving forward. We don't know about A.J. Brown's status for this week, but if he plays, I want Zion on him. Then I want Zion on Drake London, and then Chris Olave, and then Drake London again. He's on an absolute heater, and he has every reason to be confident enough to line up across from those guys and just completely shut them down. You take a look at Courtland Sutton for the Broncos. He was absolutely destroying the defense. Then Zion flips over to cover him. Boom. nothing else the rest of the game. So just like Bucky has earned his reps, I think it's time to give Zion the boost that he's earned.
I'm glad you said that because a lot of times, like, body language is really, really big, and I really watch that not only on the practice field but around the facility. And I'm telling you what, Zion McCollum comes. It's so different, James, compared to even last year, but especially you go back 2 years, the way he carries himself. And today was one of those days that it was kind of light as far as the players being in there. They know when we're in there. They're coming off that bad game. So the last thing they want to do is talk about it. It's in the books. They already saw the film. They're all about the Eagles right now. So there wasn't a lot of players. When we get in the middle of the room, they have this Bucs backdrop, and they'd like you to do the interviews there. I did a couple. You can go over to their locker. They'd like you to do it there. Zion McCollum came right over first, guys. What do you got, guys? And I'm like, wow, look at this. Very, very confident, the way he carries himself. And I mentioned it in my Rock Report on today at the 813.tv. He's like, we just got to get back to the basics. We're a good defense. Stop thinking too much. Stop worrying about this, what they're going to do. Get back to the basics. Play Buck ball. That's what they got to do. But, yeah, that's a good one. He really has come a long way, both on the field and off the field. He's almost like that leader. You can see it, the transformation. So, Zion McCollum, good job. That's a good one, James.
All right. Well, my dud for this week is Rachaad White. From bad to worse with Rachaad. 6 carries for 17 yards, 5 receptions for 18 yards. That means Rachaad touched the ball 11 times, and the Bucs got 35 yards out of it. I'm a big Rachaad guy, but he's just not getting the job done right now. And to be fair, he struggled out of the gate last season too. He came on strong in the second half, but Rachaad has 120 offensive snaps compared to Bucky Irving's 68, and Bucky has nearly twice the production that Rachaad White has this year. He's just not making plays. He's not making guys miss in space. Even, I know you said you weren't going to take away Bucky Irving's big run. I am. Take away Bucky's 230-plus yard runs this year, and he's still averaging nearly double the yards per carry that Rachaad White is. Rachaad just doesn't look like the same guy that he was on the field last year. It's hurting the offense. I want to see Rachaad have that breakout game. I want to see him be that playmaking, elusive back that makes defenders look stupid like he did down the stretch last season, but he's just not that guy right now. He's terrible against the Broncos. He was terrible against the Lions. You know, I hate to do it to him, but Rachaad is in the dud category this week.
You know what? You can see that too. I was talking about Rachaad White to another reporter on Monday. I'm telling you, his personality was so big. He loved talking to the media. He did this tiny mic segment for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on their website, always walking around. He hasn't been around. He hasn't been around. He's down. He's moping. Here's the thing, James, like, it's still early in the year. Only you, Rachaad White, can change that. You're in the doldrums right now. You thought you were going to have a possible Pro Bowl year. He did say all the right things when they drafted another running back, saying if he gets more carries, I'm all about it. But he's got to snap out of it. And I don't, whether it's one of his coaches, whether it's Skip Pete, the running backs coach, something, because I asked Bowles about it. Does Bucky Irvin deserve to be the starting running back? And he gave the we got to use both guys. Different defenses are going to be coming. We need Rachaad White. So Rachaad White, it's early in the year. They're still going to need you. Snap out of it. Come on, man. You know, that's what he needs to do. But right now he is down. And that's not good.
No, we know what he can be. Just got to see it. And I know they said they were going to ride the hot hand. Well, the hot hand is attached to Bucky Irving's arm right now. But
yes,
yeah, you're 100% right. The Bucs are going to need Rachaad White. They're going to need this 1-2 punch. Just need Rachaad to go back to being Rachaad. But Rock, who is your dud this week?
My dud is it's the O-line. It's the O-line. It's not one, it's the O-line. And I almost, James, when I was driving here back from $1, I was considering almost giving it to Baker Mayfield because he was not himself at all. And Bowles was asked, you didn't take any deep shots. You weren't able to get the ball to Mike Evans, but you really didn't go deep. And Bowles said, because we didn't have enough time. There were deep calls, but we just didn't have the time. You gotta block better. They haven't been blowing holes open. They haven't been getting that push from the line of scrimmage. I know Luke Gedeke has not been playing the last 2 games, but hey, that's only one guy. So they should be a little bit better. Graham Barton is playing pretty darn well, I would say, for a center, but it's that interior. It's Cody Mock. It's Bredesen. They're going to have to step up. And you know what? If they can't, then I'm going to start going to the bench. I might even start looking at Elijah Klein, the rookie that they drafted. I'm not saying make changes yet, but come on, man, it's hindering you. And you got to be able to get a little bit of push for the run, and you got to be able to protect Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield has hidden some of their problems with being able to elude that pass rush and doing a good job. Now, the moves that he made 2 weeks prior, that didn't work in this game. That's what I'm saying. That was just one of those days. I'm going to chalk it up to just, it was a bad day. They got down 17-0. Then it is going to be a pass-a-thon. Defense knows what you're going to do. And so overall, it was bad. But man, if you do that 2 weeks in a row, I got some issues, James.
Yeah, and certainly having Luke Gedeke back in practice on Wednesday, gives Bucs fans a little bit more confidence. And I think if he actually does play, it gives the rest of the offensive line some confidence. It'll give Baker some confidence. That is going to lift up kind of a down unit right now. And what's crazy is, as much as Cody Mauch has struggled, I was diving into some of the numbers. I wrote it up here on the 813. Bucky Irving is the most effective when running middle right, so in between Barton and Mauch, or off of the right guard, which is in between Mauch and then either Gedeke or Justin School, as it's been the last couple of weeks. So when he runs in between Barton and Mauch, he's clipping off like a 9.7 yards per carry. When he's running in between Mauch and whoever the tackle is, he's up over 11 yards a carry. So it's like, Baker getting destroyed against Denver with all this interior pass rush. It seems like the pass rush is what's struggling, but that run blocking, at least to the right side when Bucky's in the game, seems to be going pretty well. So I think once Gedeke gets on the field, Mauch is going to be more confident, which is going to make Barton more confident, and it's just really going to help the unit as a whole, because that's something that they've been missing pretty bad over the last couple of weeks. 1 sack when Gedeke was starting against Washington, 12 sacks over the last 2 weeks with Gedeke out. It can't happen. So we are going to flip things over now and start talking about Todd, as we do here every Thursday on Inside the 813. Rock, you were in the building. You had the chance to talk to Todd Bowles. What's going on over there? What are we talking about with Todd?
You know what? I was disappointed in not making adjustments and honestly really getting out coached by Sean Payton. Sean Payton has his number when he goes up against Todd Bowles, and everything was against Sean Payton with the rookie quarterback, with the heat. They're staying on the East Coast. They hadn't done anything. And, there was no really adjustments made offensively in the second half. I know they were down, but there was nothing. Everything was underneath. There was nothing. And a rookie quarterback like that, he shouldn't have been able to have his way. He got confident. That confidence was building. And overall, it was almost, James, and I know you're big in youth sports. I know it's hockey, but it was almost like varsity against JV. And not having the team ready. Now, I know it should be on the players, but you know what? I think he has been kind of easy on them. It hasn't been a hard camp at all. He's making sure he's giving them a lot of time. There hasn't been a lot of come on, not a lot of yelling and things like that. If that was Bruce Arians, man, I don't think it would have been the same thing. Now, look, I know they're two different coaches, and I do like Todd, and the players do like playing for Todd, but he got out coached badly, and he did not have the team ready. So I felt a different vibe being at One Buck. talking to some of the players, they're like, oh, they got the message. I'm going to have an interview with Christian Isian. That's going to play tomorrow on the 813.tv. I said, what about the message? He goes, oh, we got the message. Now, we're not in there to see that, but I guarantee you he lit into them. We need that. We need that. So no more Mr. Nice Guy. No more trying to make it like real easy for him. Sometimes you got to be tough. Tough sells, tough love, and I think that's what Todd Bowles needs to do if he hasn't already done it, James.
Yeah, and we talked about it last week that this could be a trap game, and there were players talking about how it's not, and they're focused on the Broncos and all this.
You were
But
right because you wrote about the trap, and here I came in. Oh, it's not. They're saying it's not a trap. You wrote about the trap, so you were right, James.
Oh yeah, I mean, we a lot of us saw it coming, and it stinks. But this is one of those losses that could galvanize this team. Todd Bowles, he played a part in not having them ready, but the players also played a huge role in it in not executing and probably getting a little too confident, a little too cocky. They were reading their press clippings. They're coming off the big emotional win against Detroit. And now all of a sudden you have that collapse. And I saw somebody say it on Twitter, and I wish I could remember who it was so that I could give them the credit they deserve. But I thought they nailed it when they said that this loss put that collective chip back onto the shoulder of this team that they came into the season with. And after 2 games, after the upset in Detroit, maybe that chip fell off. Maybe it got a little too small, and they thought that they were better than they really were. This caused them to come crashing back down to earth. Todd Bowles gets a little tougher on them. These guys refocus and get ready to play the Eagles, who were coming in looking to do to them what the Bucs just did to Detroit 2 weeks ago, avenge that playoff loss. And the Eagles got embarrassed. They got absolutely embarrassed in that game, so they might be even more motivated than the Bucs were. So this might have come at the right time. It was early enough in the season. We could look back on it as being a loss that hurts them in the playoff race. But if you're going to lose a game that you probably shouldn't lose, at least it's to someone in the other conference. So it's not going to hurt you in the divisional tiebreaker, in the conference record tiebreaker. You have to get to like the 3rd or 4th tiebreaker before this one would really hurt you in the playoff chances. So yeah, I like to hear that Todd's got him refocused. I like hearing that Christian Isian got the message loud and clear. But something else that we got to talk about with Todd is this pass rush. And I know he's down Vita Vea. I know he's down Kalijah Cansey. But Yaya's supposed to be the guy, right? Yaya's supposed to be that dude that they can hang their hat on for the next couple of years. And Bowles was asked about the pass rush, and he said, quote, "We need to get going in the interior when the outside guys get a good rush. When Vita went down, we didn't have as much on the inside, but there's not an excuse. We've got to rush the passer no matter who is playing. I don't really care whether it's 4 guys, 5 guys, 6 guys, whether they're all backups or whether they're all starters or whatever the case may be. We've got to get to the quarterback better." And quote, and I agree 100%. Bo Nix, a guy who had thrown 4 interceptions and had been sacked 4 times coming into this game, only got hit twice, and both of them were by Chris Braswell. Yaya Diaby is not the guy that the hype train was building him up to be. If anything, he's Joe Tryon-Shoyinka with a slightly cooler name. Like, what do the Bucs need to do to get this pass rush going? And now they go back to facing a mobile quarterback.
See, I'm not, and I understand that. I am not ready to kick the bucket on Yaya Diaby yet. He was out all that time and just came back. But you can't use that as an excuse. I know if you're out there, you're playing, you should be able to do it. He worked on moves, James. He knew that he had to get better technique-wise because like a Tryon-Shoyinka, and I think he's even more athletic. And what he did last year, he had 7? I think he had 7 sacks. He was the leader, and he didn't really start, until so many games in. That he was going to have the breakout year, but he was going to have to work on his moves. And he did. But you're right. It's a results-oriented league. And if you can get to the quarterback, you can get rushing him, they got to get him down on the ground. And he's got to get help on the other side. Maybe he isn't the guy. There's a lot of people that are already feel like maybe he isn't the guy. I'm not ready yet. But the clock is ticking, and they're going to face some L's if they can't get to these quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get rid of it really, really fast. But they know that this is the NFL, so I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I know there's a lot. There's a lot to say. Ya's a bust. He's not even a Shaq Barrett. With Shaq Barrett, I know. I'm not ready yet, James. Not quite yet.
In a season where sack numbers are way up, the Buccaneers have now allowed 97 straight pass attempts by their opponents without getting a sack. It can't happen. It cannot happen anymore. That streak needs to end this week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And in order to make that happen, Rock, let's talk about our X factors for this week against the Eagles. The Bucs are looking to bounce back from that loss to Denver, get to 3-1 before they face the Atlanta Falcons on a short week on a Thursday night. You take a look at this matchup, there might not be an A.J. Brown. There might not be a Devonta Smith for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Bucs may or may not have Vita Vea. They may or may not have Luke Gedeke. Things are looking good, but it's not set yet. Who's your X factor if the Bucs are going to come away with a win this week?
My X factor is you got to come out fast. You have got to come out fast. You cannot get down and play catch up, because I heard from a lot of people, man, there's going to be a lot of Eagles fans here. I'm not kidding, James. I was shocked at how many Denver fans there were. I walk around and see tailgates. I'm like, there is a ton. And they actually took over the stadium. I don't get it. I mean, they had come in looking terrible. Were there this many Denver fans that live here? Did they all decide? Maybe they got their tickets early. So there's going to be a big, loud. It's going to be loud. They're going to have to start playing. They're going to be practicing in the indoor facility tomorrow, so they'll probably put the crowd noise on. I know it's a home game. They didn't do that last week. When Bruce Arians was here, and even when Bowles took over as head coach, when they were playing a home game, they would still pump in crowd noise at practice. Believe it or not, they haven't done it. You better do it, and get off to a fast start. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. All that jazz. Here's the thing. They're getting a lot of yardage. I think it was something like 460 to 219 or 419 to 260 in yards, but they haven't been scoring a lot. They're not blowing out a lot of people, the Eagles. You got to go back to week 7 against the Miami Dolphins for the Eagles to win more than a one-possession game. Jalen Hurts is turning it over. He's turning it over quite a bit. Now, and you better be able to tackle. I know that these are a lot of X factors, but I mean, it's all part of it. It's not just one. They better do a better job in tackling. I almost was going to put that in my 2 for Tuesday on the 813, and I started trying to look at the rules of the collective bargaining agreement. How much tackling are you allowed during the season? I really couldn't get any gist. I know the Pittsburgh Steelers with Tomlin in training camp, they tackle, but hardly any team does. And the Buccaneers have not done good tackling, not done a good job. Bowles even mentioned that. Saquon Barkley is a killer. So it's a lot of factors, but overall, come out with the fire. Don't wait. Start fast, and then you got a chance. That's my X factor for this one on Sunday.
All right. Well, my X factor for this one is Lavonte David. Whether Vita Vea plays or not, the Eagles are going to have just one of their top weapons on the field Sunday, and that's Saquon Barkley. Greg Gaines has played pretty well in Vita Vea's absence. Obviously, Vita is a big factor in run defense, but Lavonte David has to dominate and get after Barkley early in those carries to prevent him from carving up defenses the way he has all season. On top of that, he also has to keep an eye on Jalen Hurts. The Bucs are 8th in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game. And a big part of that is because of the legs of Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. It hasn't been the running backs beating them. It's been the quarterbacks. We expect the Eagles to put the offense on the shoulders of Saquon Barkley because A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are likely out. That means their number one receiver is Jahan Dotson, unless you want to count Dallas Goedert, who went off last week, had, I think it was 10 receptions for over 170 yards. He was absolutely on fire against the New Orleans Saints. But Jalen Hurts is still a massive threat in the run game. They are going to try to pound the rock up and down the field, control the clock, and let their defense do work like they did against the New Orleans Saints last week. Levante is going to be crucial in the Bucs' ability to get off the field and give the ball back to Baker Mayfield and the offense.
I like it. You're right. Those wide receivers, if they're out, that's huge. That's huge, James. And I was talking to a national reporter in the locker room that is from Philly and covers the Eagles. And he's like, I can't figure the Eagles out. I really can't. But you know what you said? You said something earlier on this podcast, and I think you hit it on the head. Like the wake-up call factor. Go back a week before with the Eagles. That defense was embarrassed against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins went all the way down the field. They got embarrassed, and the defense showed up. Those young guys and in the interior and Jalen Carter. So I think it's the same type of thing. The Buccaneers, I think you got embarrassed. Everybody figured you were going to win and you were at home. And now you can't do that. You cannot do that anymore. So I think that's another X factor that, reality set in, man. If you come out like that, you're going to get beat, even if it's a bad team. So I think that was big, and I think you hit that one on the head.
Yeah, I mean, now you're a home underdog to the Philadelphia Eagles. You've dropped from second to third in the odds to win your own division. You're now behind the Falcons again, who started off on top. Now the Saints are the favorite to win the NFC South. Then you got the Falcons, and then way behind the Falcons, you have the Buccaneers. That's got to leave a bitter taste in your mouth, all because of one game where you weren't playing up to par and the other team was playing the best football that they have played all season long. Really, that's the best football that the Broncos have ever played in the month of September under Sean Payton. That's his first September win as head coach of the Denver Broncos. So there's a bad taste in the Bucs' mouth. There's a bad taste in the Eagles' mouth. It's going to be real interesting to see how this one shakes out. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Inside the 813. Again, check out all the content and shows available right here on the 813.tv. Follow on Twitter at the 813TV, at Yarcho_Bucks, at Real Rock Riley. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, and we want to thank you for taking a trip with us inside the 813.